Hi, this is another iOS tutorial, and today I'll be talking about inheritance and subtype polymorphism. First, you want to look at inheritance because it's very difficult to understand subtype polymorphism without understanding inheritance. This is a definition I found. Inheritance is when an object or class is based on another object or class, using the same implementation or specifying implementation to maintain the same behavior. So basically, what this is saying is classes can have a sort of child parent relationship with each other, and the child has access to all the methods and properties of the parent. Okay, so that's what it means when one class inherits from another class, and I've written up an example in Xcode to illustrate that. Now, we have three classes over here. I have person, firefighter, and police officer. Now, if we look at person.h, it just inherits from NS object. This tells you what you inherit from. And in the person file, we have walk, eat, shake hand, state job methods. So we've got these four methods. And then the idea here is both the firefighter and the police officer inherit from person. So if we go to firefighter, I've also included another method, state job, which prints out firefighter, and for the police officer, prints out police officer. Now, because it inherited this from here, that means all these methods are basically included in the firefighter class and in the police officer class. So to illustrate this, I've created basically a sample code. This is the first view controller, and we've imported person, firefighter, and police officer. That gives us access to the class files. And then here we create a new person and a new firefighter and a new police officer. And then what I do is, don't worry about this for now. We use Bob walk, Bob shake hand, and Bob eat. Okay, and Bob is our police officer. So if you look at the police officer, those methods aren't even in there. But if we run it, as you would expect, down in NSLog, we have walk, shake hand, eat. So that's basically how inheritance works. It's a kind of a shortcut to instead of rewriting all these methods in every class file. Okay, and if we look, now that we know this, we can get to subtype polymorphism. Okay, so I'm going to read the definition here. In programming language theory, subtyping, also subtype polymorphism or inclusion polymorphism, is a form of type polymorphism in which a subtype is a data type that is related to another data type, the supertype, by some notion of substitutability, meaning that program elements, typically subroutines or functions written to operate on the elements of the supertype, can also operate on elements of the subtype. If S is a subtype of T, the subtyping relation is often written S less than colon T to mean that any term of type S can be safely used in a context where term T is expected. So basically, this is the inheritance relation. This is why we need to know inheritance before we know subtype polymorphism. Now, if we have a relation like we do with person and police officer, basically what it's telling us is we can use a police officer in any place where it would normally use a person. So to do this, I've created a method down here. State job of person, and it, as an argument, it asks for a person. But what we're going to do is we're going to give it Bob, and Bob is a police officer. Some languages, if you tried to do this, it would say, wait a minute, type mismatch doesn't work. But Objective-C recognizes that because Bob is a police officer and police officer inherits from person, that state job of person can accept this as an argument. And when we do this, then I do person, that's what we got, our argument, which is passed in Bob, state job. And Bob's job is police officer, so it will state this over here, in part because even though in person we say state job, job unknown, police officer has state job, police officer. So police officer overloaded that method, basically overwrote it. And here, the last line is what we're concerned with, police officer. Now, another good example of this subtype polymorphism is whenever you make these view controllers, and you'll see this as you're designing your UIs, You typically use this pattern where you create one, you put your stuff on here, and then you make an M file that inherits from UI view controller, and then we name it something unique. Like this one is not UI view controller, it's just view controller, and then here, look, we substitute it into the class. Normally by default, this view would inherit from UI view controller, but because this view controller class is a subtype inherits from UI view controller, we can substitute in our own custom view controller and then define our own custom behavior. This is a big part of Objective-C. So basically, you're going to see subtype polymorphism all over the place. If you don't remember what exactly the term means, it's probably okay, but at least know how it works and that you can do it. This has been another iOS tutorial.